Hi, Kenzie here. So today what we're going to talk about is there are going to be times where you want to add a function, but the problem is you can't find, or the function you want doesn't exist. So what we do is you can either click on this new package icon, or you can go and navigate from workflows. Down below is a code engine icon. So navigate into code engine. So let's go there. So in this, I want to create a new package. I'm going to call it limit package. So for this example, I'm going to use JavaScript. You're welcome to use JavaScript or Python, and then you can upload any thumbnail you would like. So I'm going to create this new package. So when you create a new package, it'll pop up with a pre-defined function. And so let's explain a couple things in here. In here is where you can add your JavaScript code. You also have to make sure you export the function at the bottom so that you're able to execute it. Once you have a defined function, you can come in here to the function configuration, navigate to the function you are wanting to define. Then you have to click here and define what the input parameters are and what variable types they are. You can also add new inputs, adding a new param1, and you can define outputs. If you don't define any outputs, there will be nothing to wire to in your workflow. So when you're testing it, there will be a response that comes back here, but if you do not put an output in, you will not be able to wire and use it in your workflow or any other place where you're using code engine packages. So for this one, what I'm going to do is I want a limit and throw function. So on this one, I want to take in a number 1. Oops. So I'm going to take in number 1, and then I'm also going to take in a number 2. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to take in a limit. So when you're writing functions, you can console log whenever you want. So let's say I want to console log the sum of number 1 and number 2. So var sum is equal to number 1, and it'll suggest autofilling what it thinks you want. And then let's actually here, let's say we're going to have this be the sum. I'm going to change this from hello world to this is the sum. Then what we're going to do is if the sum is bigger than your limit, then what we're going to do is we're going to console error sum was over the limit. And then we're actually going to throw sum was over the limit. And so if it wasn't, we're just going to return the sum. So there's a couple things that I'm missing here. One of which is you can see that on line 11 there's a red dot, and it's saying my function is not defined. That module export has to match exactly your function name. So I'll copy that in there. And now when I click on this select a function, I can see that there's a limit and throw. If I try to press the play button that is either in that left-hand side panel or right next to the number 1, you can see that no types are defined for number 1, number 2, and limit. This makes it so that we can't validate and we can't actually start your function. So if I try to save and start, I'll get a couple errors because we don't know what you're actually trying to start. So I'm gonna go and let's wire these up to variable types. So number 1, I'm gonna have that be a number. Then number 2, let's actually have that be a decimal. Then the limit, we're just gonna have that be a number. So it's gonna take in a number, a decimal, and a number. And now we can test and see if that is actually what we want. So let's go 1.1. Let's say our limit is 3. So you can save and start your function. You can make sure that it's executing correctly and logging out the things you want it to log. One thing to note is your logs will not show up in your workflow. They are just a debugging tool. So this one, it says the sum is 2.1 and the response was 2.1. So we're going to actually add an output because in my workflow I want to be able to use the sum as it comes out. So it's going to be a decimal because a number added to a decimal is always, it can be a number or a decimal, so it's always the safer bet to use a decimal. And I'm going to call it sum. So we're going to add that in. And let's try it again. Let's actually change this limit down to 2. And here you go. It says the sum was 2.1 because it hit line 3, and then it went down and it said the sum was over the limit, and then it threw the sum was over the limit. I'll just go and call this thrown. Let's call it thrown exception. Let's try that one more time. So we're gonna go 2, 3, 0, and let's do, where's the limit? So now it says the thrown exception was over the sum lit. That was my bad making those the exact same thing, but as you can see, it'll throw and it'll fail the function. There was no confetti. Let's try it one more time with an actual high limit so that we can make sure that we're seeing everything correctly and that the sum is spitting out correctly. So it's coming out as 5, which is correct. So let's try that one more time. Let's put it here, and the limit is 6, and it came out correctly. It's a decimal. So if I go back, so right now it's all saved, but the problem that I have is if I go into my workflow now, it's not going to show up. So what you have to do before your code engine function will show up is you actually have to save and deploy that function. So by saving and deploying it, it'll make it available to other Domo processes and features. So just push confirm. And now I'm ready to go back to my workflow and add it in. So I'm gonna jump back in to my workflow that I'm working on. And just a second, it'll load. So I'll at that start. Now my packages have appeared, so I'm going to search for limit. I'm going to find my limit package that we just made. Created just a few minutes ago. I'm going to add that limit, select the function, and now I can map my variables. Hopefully that was helpful.